Welcome to What Not to Do. I'm Kyle Schmitz, and this is episode 47. It is part 2 Tuesday, and I've got Mark Burwell again with me. We're going to double click on why your kids should become your mentors. We're going to talk about how to avoid energy vampires and supernova burnouts, and what it looks like to play Cupid. You're going to love this conversation. Hold tight. We'll be right back. One of my biggest aims in life is to give you more in use value than I take in cash value. And I'm so thankful for all the thoughts and ideas you've shared with me on how I can better do that. One of those ideas that has come up on a few different occasions has been, we love the long form conversational format, but sometimes it takes a while just to get through even one episode. What would it look like to aim for episodes that are 1 hour or less in length without compromising the format? And I thought, great idea. I love the long conversational format too, and I really want those conversations to be as accessible and easy to digest as possible. So I'm absolutely pumped to introduce a new innovation of what not to do. We'll keep the long form conversational format that has been so well received, and we'll divide it into 30 to 45 minute segments that'll make it more easy to digest on your morning commute or working out at the gym or run or hanging out at the house. This is going to be awesome. I'm so pumped to keep giving you such high value conversations, and now more accessible and easier to digest than ever. I'm so proud to be your guys' host and so thankful for all your help innovating and iterating to make this community even better. I love you guys. And with that, let's get to what not to do. I'm loving our conversation. This is awesome. So, okay, cool. So let's get into failure. That's what the podcast is about, right? Not something we have to be afraid of, but we can lean into and really in line with what we've been talking about, really to help other folks. So, over the course of your career, you probably only have 1 or 2 failures, which is a joke. People are usually like, oh, I could, do multiple episodes, that type of thing. But what's a failure or two that, or really one maybe that rises to the top of your mind, kind of sticks out above the rest? And give us the story, unpack the story for us.
Well, I would say there's a lot of tidbits of, we'll say, mistakes or challenges you've had, but I think the biggest thing that I've found, because I have had different aspects of my life or careers, and I think the biggest thing is not knowing how to transition out of something. It's really what I like to call a supernova burnout. It kind of, I like to draw it to, let's say, the Michael Jordan. What did Michael Jordan do? He was great at basketball. And he decided he was burned out. So what happened is he tried baseball, right? Did it work? No. Came back, played baseball or basketball again, and then went into, I think it was golf. I think not knowing when to transition in life. Sometimes overachievers don't have to have a business and run it forever. Don't have to have an organization and run it forever. So you need to, especially I guess as a sprinter, I realize that you're always trying to hit the finish line, and things change. So you can become innovative. I think you can become disruptive, but that's probably one of the business failures again. And the business failure is that sometimes you recreate or become innovative and it gets out of people's comfort zone. So I found that probably I would be considered, I guess, a disruptor. If I'm on a board of directors and they don't want change, I'm the disruptor. And I find that sometimes that doesn't always work the best. Some people are uncomfortable with that. It's out of their comfort zone. So it's knowing when and where to be involved with that. You don't just throw everything down and leave. You try to sit back and work with some of those ground rules and work with it. So But yes, how to transition. What do you do when you are at the top of your game, and you have to know and identify when it's time to transition, I would say.
That's interesting. It would be like trying to take a turn, like you're going 80 miles per hour, you're at the top of your game, and you try to take a 90-degree turn.
Well, I think it's an encore anxiety.
Interesting.
In other words, I like to think of it as that, is because I always say you need to have an encore. We need to evolve, and that's what sometimes you need to do as a company, especially in the fashion industry or even in the entrepreneurial right now. How do you continue to keep having an encore? People expect that. They expect that from the company. They expect that from you.
Yeah, one more song.
And sometimes you need to figure out, now, how do I get out of this? How do I get out of this? So sometimes you change course so you don't burn out. And I think that, and still have purpose. And so, I don't know. I guess I haven't really found that out yet.
Well, so take us into a story as far as that you experience in transitions, because you mentioned some stuff in your timeline earlier. Even within one business, from a micro perspective, you were able to evolve and to change, and transition. And then from a macro perspective, you've also done that throughout your life, and moving from from one thing to the next, and you've had some transitions there, even from the top of your game. Do you have a story or an example of when you didn't necessarily make that transition, or it didn't go very well for you?
I think so, and I think sometimes it took looking back on it, because you go into denial, and that is trust. Mm-hmm. Trusting people. Yeah. I always trust people, always believed in people. But sometimes people tend to poach on you. Do you continue helping them and working with them? I always said yes, 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 but sometimes it wasn't good for them and it wasn't good for you. So I did make the mistake of sometimes trusting people. Should you continue to trust people? Yes. But I think that has to do with a mistake that I would say is you can't help everybody. Yeah. Even as a business architect or mentor now, when you're working with businesses, you surround them with good connections. But they're going to go someplace until they hear what they want to hear. Yeah. So they don't necessarily take the advice of a lot of people that you've connected them with, but they don't want to. So sometimes you tend to feel you want to help everybody and you can't. You just can't.
Kind of reminds me of the old saying, what is it? God helps those who help themselves, in a sense. And I mean, we're obviously, well, it's interesting because I would understand that impulse to want to help people. It's something that drives me. But when you don't see someone that is wanting to help themselves, there's like the law of diminishing returns. You can't make them go do the behaviors. You can't make them go do what you're encouraging them to do. You can't make them take the advice of the people that you've connected them with. And at some point, you got to say, like, if they're not going to listen, if they're not going to take the advice or make the most of the opportunities that I helped to create for them, then what more can you do? And maybe they'll come back to it at a later point in life and it'll click for them. But there's other folks that you could help, right? There's other folks that you could connect. There's other folks that would take that on, and it's, how do you find those folks? How maybe that's a good question. Like maybe and don't helping everybody, or you can't help everybody. What are some of the criteria you can use to discern who you should help and who you don't?
That's a good question. I like to, I guess, think of it as there's people who, let's say the Packers won, we won, right? Mm-hmm. And then when they lose, it's they lost, right? So I like
they lost.
Exactly.
That's great.
I like to say that you need to be a participant and not a spectator. Mm-hmm. If you are complaining about the way government is running things and that, then don't be a spectator. Be a participant. Talk to somebody. I used to be involved with two of the governors and their task force for small business over the years. And when we'd get together, we were advocates. We talked about what was important for small businesses. And I would get calls from some state legislators over the years saying, what do you think of this for small business? And I'd say, you mean somebody in Menominee, Wisconsin can't tell you some of these things? Or somebody, in Wisconsin Rapids can't tell you anything? And they say, well, they don't call me. They don't tell me. We've had town halls, nobody comes. So to me, they're still down at the coffee shops and at the pubs complaining about small business issues, but they don't become a participant. And that's kind of the way it is with your initial question, Kyle, and that is, who do you know who to pick and who not to pick that's going to know that? I think are they willing to be a spectator? A lot of people always complain. And it's funny because I remember the whole thing with eHub and Urban Hope initially was Reggie would say, well, it is feeding a man, not feeding a man to fish, teaching him how to fish. And I said, Reggie, no, it's beyond that. We need to change the fishing industry, meaning there's a lot of different things we need to do differently. Yeah. And part of that is that as well. We need to not, and that's a mistake I probably made, is trying to help too many people when some of them but I didn't know. Yeah. I just took faith in that they all need help.
Why? Why do I do what I do? Let me tell you. My why is to use my presence and my prose to inspire you to go all in on you so that you live a legacy worth leaving.
That's interesting. So let's take a step backwards. When we're thinking through situations, if we made every decision if we made every wrong decision, we wouldn't be here today, right? And so it seems that there's a lot of things that in wanting to help folks, there's a lot that you've done, there's a lot that's in there that you've done right? I want to talk about that just for a minute. And thinking through impact you wanted to help folks, leading up to the failure of trying to help too many people or trying to help the wrong people. What were some of those things that you did right? In that process leading up to the failure. Does the question make sense?
So you're asking for some tips, because that could be a ton of them, or
not necessarily tips, but as you're looking back over the story in that time in your life where you realize, hey, I'm trying to help too many people, and I'm trying to help the wrong people. It seems to me that the impulse to help people is a really good one, and that's something that you did do right. Like you were, the thought process, the actions, those weren't wrong. That you're not saying it's wrong to help people, and you're not saying don't help people. Period. The failure, it seems, if I'm hearing you correctly, the failure came in when you realized I'm helping people that aren't in the game. I'm helping people that aren't really trying to help themselves, and my time would be better spent because I can't change their behavior. I can't affect it. My time would be better spent finding the folks that actually are helping themselves, that they are in the game or they want to get in the game. And if I can help them get in the game, then it would be better for them and better use of my time. Am I kind of understanding that correctly?
Yes, I think I look and identify, I guess, that as energy vampires. And I'm sure there's many books out there written on how to say no, right?
Yeah.
And that's probably a learning lesson that if I could go back and take that back, is how to say no.
Yeah.
I've never believed in, sometimes I might have been the last resort too. I might have been dumped. Somebody who I had to not do a triage is put out a fire.
Yeah.
Right? And sometimes you can't take on somebody to put out a fire when they've probably been to 3 other organizations or that where they tried the same thing. They're just not, it's not there. It's like the great big idea that a lot of businesses have too. I feel the biggest, and that's what I would say to them, and that's how I would probably perceive it now, is that it's not about the big idea, it's taken into commercialization. In other words, the biggest reason for business failure is there's no market for your business. Mm-hmm. People think they have this great idea. You need to evaluate that. And sometimes you try to help people try to see that, and sometimes they won't go that way. They have this great invention, and they don't want to work into that. So that I feel sometimes personally is a failure when I can't help them. But you have to realize, no, it's not going to happen.
Yeah, and sometimes one of the best ways you can't help them is just letting them go forth and fail. Like if they're not willing to listen, if they're not willing to hear the advice, okay, it's going to be a costly mistake, but they'll be better for it, hopefully.
You give them a heads up, and that's all you can do.
Yeah, at some point you have to. Yeah, it's so interesting. Yeah, so I mean, it seems to me that that desire to want to be able to help, to want to be able to connect folks, that's a really, really good one. Where the failure came in for you is, again, it's in the dealing of trust, right?
Right.
And it's in the dealing of knowing who to help, when to help them, and when to step away from trying to help them. You know, like when you realize like, hey, this is successful. I connected with so and so. They're taking action, great. Or I've done all that I can. I don't know that I'm really getting through to them. I don't know that anyone else is really getting through. I have to let them go. They're going to probably fail, but they're going to be able to learn from it, and they're going to be better off because of it. And there's not a cookie cutter approach for that. It's kind of an intuition.
You're not there to hold their hand.
Right. Yeah.
They have to empower.
Yeah, and you had mentioned earlier too about transitions, and I can imagine that's really important, and even transitioning of because in your business today, you're in the business of passing a baton, in the business of helping and connecting, and in all those micro transitions of when to move on to the next person, when to move on to the next business, that type of stuff, and knowing how to transition even in that, it seems like that's just would be a theme in all of life, in so many different spheres of life, doing transitions well. Because change is going to come, and we need to evolve, right? We need to reinvent ourselves. We need to be able to adapt to the change and leverage it, not have it squash us. So I guess I'm curious, looking back over the course of your life, what would you have told younger Mark about, as the changes and the transitions would come, and you've learned some things about how to trust others, how to work with others, how to help others. What advice or counsel would you have given him that could have maybe helped to avoid some of the mistakes that you had made along the way?
Oh, I think probably don't build cages.
Explain that.
Well, I think sometimes you build cages around yourself that you don't even realize you're doing. Time elements, like we just talked about the energy vampire, you tend to sometimes get involved and build a cage around you. Checking emails. We'll use that as a good example too. Are you checking them every hour, twice a day? So you can do whatever you want, but sometimes you build cages around because you feel like you should be doing this. So sometimes I think that if I were to go back over time, it's the should have thing. Should I have done this? So I think you do build cages around yourself. When you feel that you're stressed, you don't have to be stressed. You build a cage around yourself, that's when stress comes. Yeah. Now, that I probably didn't realize till later because I felt strong, I could just push through that, right? No. You have to not build those cages.
Yeah, that's interesting. Because of how hyper connected we are, we can communicate instantly via text or phone call or email, and then there's that maybe burden that we place on ourselves of like, well, I have to respond right away. If someone emails me, I need to be checking my email all day long so I can respond immediately, right? And we maybe place a higher burden upon ourselves or put ourselves in a cage, to use your phrase. And we do that in a lot of different aspects in life, not just with the communication piece, but what you're saying is amps up the stress in our lives,
yes.
Which has a ripple effect, and it's going to affect the way that we do other work. And then we start to get into that kind of negative feedback loop of not helpful behavior or constructive behavior, and that can really cause premature, maybe even premature burnout. That's a really interesting concept. I've never thought of it in that phrase of like putting yourself in a cage. I like it. Yeah.
My influencers, they're the ones that have told me, ease up.
Well, speaking of influencers, we're all influenced, right? We're all shaped by so many different people in life. Parents, coaches, teachers, mentors. It's amazing too how we can even be influenced by people that are younger than us, right? I shared earlier, how a guy that I've never met influenced me to just, get in the game on the podcast, right? And now here we are talking, which is awesome. And you maybe have found yourself even learning from folks, even while you're mentoring them, right? And that process, we never stop learning, But I'm curious for you, Mark, of all the folks that you've learned from in your lifetime, and that you've been influenced by, who's one that if you took them out of the equation, they've so impacted you that if you took them out of the equation, you just wouldn't be the same Mark Burwell that you are today. Who would that be for you?
Well, I guess this is going to sound different because sometimes you say your mom's, your dad's. I had a single mom. She died young as well. So, but I'm going to say my two boys, my two sons. And the reason for that is now they're 39 and 42. I mean, they're older now. But even when they were younger, I guess I was their compass, their mentor, and their role model. But at the same time, over time, they became my compass, my mentor. I mean, they are the ones that taught me a lot about IT moving forward. They're the ones that showed me some things about not building those cages we talked about. And more than anything, looking at them now is I'm so proud of them because they have become role models, not just for the grandkids, but in their community and in their jobs.
Yeah.
So in a way, I just see them as unbelievable influencers. Now, people think your kids are your mentor. Absolutely. I think if you're in a family business especially, or in general, your kids should become your mentors. And I think that's the problem we have now is we don't look at that. We just think that we're older and we're supposed to be the mentors. No. It can be flipped around. It's not just mentors, but we'll say your question, Colin, that is on being influencers. They're definitely that. And I remember 2 days before Father's Day getting a package at the office, and this is several years ago, but I was just getting a business award, and I opened up the package with one of the reporters there, and in there it said, it was a compass. It's from my oldest son, and it said, this is for directions and that, for in life, how important compasses are. And my son said, Dad, this is for you because of all the direction you've shown people, including myself. And now I look at it as flip side, but I still cherish that. It means a lot to me, the significance of a compass in general. And that's a big influence. Now, my first wife, who had courage, she was an influencer in the entrepreneurship, but recently got married last year. Sherry, tremendous entrepreneur, leader. She's a definite influencer. And I see her empowering women. And that's, to me, I look back and means a big difference. Of course, Reggie and Sarah, I can't forget about them as being an influencer. Reggie was some of the same paradigm and vision we had together, and why I took on that challenge and continued to. And Sarah, who really taught me really truly how important it was for people, entrepreneurs, by giving back. So I guess that would be some strong influences in my life.
How do I do what I do? Well, for me, there's one overarching ultimate principle: to give you more in use value than I take in cash value. It'd be like if I wrote a book and you bought that book for $10, but that book gave you a $1 million idea. I have effectively given you more in use value than have taken from you in cash value. And that's exactly what I aim to do with what not to do.
I love it. I love the picture of a compass, and your son giving it to you because of the direction that you've shown, and now how you look at that as saying, well, yeah, but the direction that you've shown, and it seems it's like, earlier in life it's the parent that holds the compass for the child, and then later in life it's the child that holds the compass for the parent, right?
Absolutely.
It's just who's holding the compass, and I love what you said about your kids being your mentor. I've heard that before, and it's just fascinated me, and I think that's a hallmark of really good parenting, right? When you lay the foundations, the framework for your children, and they've come to a place of maturity, and then and influence in the world to where now, as you grow older, they're actually teaching you, they're instructing you, they're a mentor for you. It's a really, really powerful. And I don't know that it's super common. I don't know that a lot of folks necessarily think that way. And I think you can see that reflected in businesses. Sometimes where like the leaders within business never want, they want everyone to fall under their umbrella type of thing, and to look up to them as the most brilliant and smart person, and sometimes maybe that's like a power play, because if they're the only one who knows everything and always holding the compass, so to speak, then everyone has to follow them, rather than maybe how a leader can so, just like a parent would, so invest in the folks that they lead, that suddenly they become, that they're the ones holding the compass, and they actually helped in a sense influence the leader in a similar way that you're saying. I guess I'd have to think on or chew on that more. Have you ever thought about how that applies to in the business realm, as far as like?
Well, I think the awesome part is now we're having a lot within Urban Hope and eHub, a lot of second generation. Matter of fact, cool. I think there's about 16 who have actually come back through the program, who have been sons or daughters or younger general managers or whatever. And one of the things they come to say, we need to teach them, or can they come through the program? I said, well, you need to get them involved with helping you transition out, not the other way around. Because when you talk about mergers and acquisitions and that, we have a huge gap on how to do that, and a lot of people don't want to get in. Well, parents never realize that they need to have their kids mentoring them. If the kids were mentoring them, think about this, there wouldn't have to be a transition. The transition would already be there. So I think that's where we're making a big mistake, and that's one thing we try to, in some of the cases, I probably have about 6 a year where a lot of our businesses where they're retiring, or they're moving on, or shifting gears, or passing on. Well, have you started, have your sons or daughters been mentoring in the business? What do you mean? I've been mentoring them. I said, no, it needs to go the other way around. You don't know that much about technology. You don't know what's going on with social media. Why are you getting outside help when your sons or daughters should be helping with that? Right. So sometimes that's a flip side.
And it kind of goes back to what you were saying, when a child turns 12 or 13, you step back and lead by example, and you let them step out. And there's a similar dynamic, it seems like, exactly what you're saying, like in a family business or just in any business, Let's just take the family business. The dad or the parents are looking at retiring and stepping out, and they felt like they've been mentoring the whole time, but maybe the mistake was they didn't step back when they needed to, and let the, well, I guess the literal child, but an adult, who's part of the business, didn't let them step out to take more and more leadership and responsibility and have that mentoring aspect. And if that opportunity is never given for them to exercise that, then the parent would, I think, is right to feel concerned, if the child, whether or not their child, obviously being adult at the time, could lead. It's amazing me, because I think there's so much overlap between these kind of like transcendent principles within business, but also in family. And you see it the most clearly in a family business, because the business is a family is a business. But I think the principles apply, to Walmart or to Coca-Cola, or name your Fortune 500 company. I think there are similar dynamics there, which is really, really interesting. So anyway, I love that. I love that. If you're listening to this, think on this. I mean, think about if you've got kids, think about how wherever that they are in the phase of life. Are you letting them step out? Are you letting them take on the leadership? Are you letting them become mentors for you?
And too many times, Kyle, I think what happens is they feel that having them work in the business during that time, no. Or you hear them, oh, they need to cut away and totally do something different. I think when they're in high school, when they're getting their job, don't give them a job within your own business. My whole advocacy was, because I learned this myself, and that is you work 1 year in the hospitality, customer service, retail, hospitality, and another year has to be in some type of, we'll say, contracting or industrial or manufacturing, something that has to do with, we'll say not necessarily a blue-collar job, but something that deals with that within industry. So I think they get well-rounded, so when they come out, no matter where they go, they have that. And I'm finding out that some of the best experiences my boys had, even though they're in strategic management and IT and that, is really when they were in the hospitality industry, because they enjoyed the people, they understood what the customer's needs were and how to work with that. Or even in the retail sector, away from business we had, is that seeing a different perspective on inventory control and supply side of things.
Yeah, that's awesome. I love that you're giving them a real world education by saying, hey, spend a year here, spend a year here, spend a year here, get the perspective, get the vantage points, and then come back. Those are things that they might not have learned, or at least in the same way, or to help kind of, just to give them different models and lenses through it.
Different mentors.
Yeah, different mentors. Yeah, really, really powerful. Okay, so you've given us a lot of good advice. I'm curious, Mark, what's some of the worst advice that you hear floated around these days? What's some bad advice or even that you've been given? But I'm sure you probably hear a lot of advice you're kind of like, you just cringe. It's like, that's just not good advice.
Well, I think I hear a lot of entrepreneurs, and I guess given to me throughout the days too, is to wear all the hats. To me, I think in today's world, entrepreneurs think they're supposed to do everything, do their own web pages, do their own QuickBooks, do all that. To me, it's building an enterprise team, not advisors, not a board, not employing people, but you can outsource. That's what's awesome about a lot of our entrepreneurs that have come through the program in business services, for example, or they're pulling them together. In some cases, they're even bartering, but they kind of come on board when you need them. It can be maybe a 10-minute conversation, but put that enterprise team together, and half of them need to be peers. Now that's the other bad advice, is that you would have your own competitors be on your enterprise team. Absolutely. We've had a lot of photographers who have, and web page designers and that, who were told never be in a network group, never, it should only be one of everything. Mm-hmm. And I'm saying, wait a minute, it should be the other way around. You should build yourself around all your competitors, because then you build, and that's exactly what's happened, is they have come together to team up to build a bigger organization.
Yeah.
Or shared, it's not trying to hog everything themselves.
Yeah.
So I think that, no, you don't need to wear all the hats. You just need to have those people on board and build that.
What's the saying? If you want to go fast, go by yourself. If you want to go far, go with others. Something like that. I love what you're saying too, and even it goes back to that, like, we can get so stuck in this competition mindset, which is really a scarcity mindset. And we're so afraid to partner with other people or work together because, well, what if they steal our ideas or all that kind of stuff? Well, really, I think all of us want to have an impact. We believe in the work that we do.
Sure.
And if that's true, then we can't do that ourselves. Like, not only can we not wear all the hats, but we're not Atlas. We can't, throw the world on our shoulders and walk around, we need other people, right? And they need us. And so when we move from that competition to collaborative mindset, so how can we create together? And then things really start to evolve, right? Because you get the synergistic effects of different minds coming together and helping us to see things that we maybe never saw before, or envision things that we never thought we could do before. And suddenly, bam, it can be a really beautiful thing. But it starts with the mindset.
Well, one of the sub things from that, I guess, is the advice was, I remember one of my regional managers saying to me, well, what happens if we train them too much and they leave? And I'd say, where would we be at if we weren't training them?
Yeah, right. Let's keep them really dumb and so they stay here.
Right.
It's like, no. Right. That's awesome.
I said that raises the bar for us because we're going to constantly have to raise the bar to keep them here,
Right.
which grows the company even better.
Yeah, exactly. And it has that mindset of you're building something greater than yourself, and you're building something for others more than yourself, right? It's that, hey, where is this going to be in the next generation, 10 generations from now, right? And how can we contribute to that legacy rather than just thinking, what can I get out of the deal, in my short time here? And moving from that finite to that infinite mindset is really powerful, I think. We're exactly that. All right, so our last question here is a fun one of my favorites, and it's rush hour, Mark, in every major city in the world, from Madison to Green Bay to Hong Kong, and billions of people are listening to What Not to Do with Mark Burwell, right? Because that's what you do on your commute, and they stop in the traffic jam and they look up and they see a billboard, and by golly, it's Mark Burwell's billboard. What message do they see, Mark? What message do you want the world to see?
Cal, do me a favor. The book I just gave you,
Yeah.
I signed it. I open it up, and this is what I evolve, reinvent yourself.
Yeah.
That's about as what we need to do is always be looking ahead, be evolving. The word decline in your product curve or service is what it's shouldn't exist.
Yeah.
There should never be, when people say I'm going to wait for it to come around or times will change. No, you need to always be evolving. Mm-hmm. You need to always be reinventing.
Yeah.
You know the why and you know the how. So what? What is it that we're going after? Well, our big, hairy, audacious goal is to inspire 1 billion people to live a legacy worth leaving by 2030. That's 100 million people per year for the next 10 years. And my friend, it starts with you. This podcast is for you, it's about you, and I couldn't do it without you.
If you're not growing, you're dying, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, there's
Plant the seeds. You should be planting seeds every day. 10% is what I always like to think of. It's not research and development, but it's looking ahead, and trend responding is so important. Trend responding, people say, well, we're going to wait and see how it goes. If I would buy pink shirts one year and they just sold like crazy, I wouldn't buy any next year. And I said, because everybody who wanted pink shirts bought them this year. Next year we have to have something different.
right.
Because it's going to be in a market of commodities at discount places or whatever. So
Right.
you always have to be evolving. Always give. And the thing is, you don't ask the customers what they want. A lot of times they don't know. If you have to take a portion of it and give them what they need. The auto industry made that mistake when they put in. Well, the Asian market beat us with a lot of inventions throughout the vehicles, but cup holders is a classic example of that. We were running around with these plastic cup holder things when a lot of other car manufacturers were putting actually cup holders, and now people buy cars because of the cup holders.
Right.
So that's what I meant by evolving, reinvent yourself. You've got to constantly be giving them what they want. Don't ask them what they want. People don't, tell me. It's outcome based.
Yeah.
That's the way things are.
And that's a really good point, because when we talk market demand, sometimes we can confuse with what someone says that they want and what they actually need. And the market demand is more, what you're saying is more based on the need,
Yes.
not simply what customers might say that they want. And usually a great way to determine the need is where the, like you said, outcome. Are they paying for it? Is this something that they value so much that what they're getting in use value is so much greater than what they paid in cash value? And that's the ultimate form. Just because someone says, or a customer says that this is what they want, doesn't necessarily mean that that's actually what it is.
If you bring them in 10 different colors of sweaters, and they say, we want this, 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 and you bring it all in, they're going to look and say, well, how come you haven't got yellow?
Oh man, and that would be a very volatile way to try to. It would seem to try to run a business, or if you're always just gauging it on these wants and rather not the needs, because it seems like the wants could really fluctuate, and the needs could kind of be here. But even that's evolving, right? And what you're ultimately saying is you got to be attuned to the true needs of your customers and be willing and have that mindset of wanting to be ahead and setting the trends, not just reacting constantly. Is that kind of what?
Exactly. It doesn't mean that you don't listen to customers, but the listening isn't actually by voice anymore. It's the pulse and what's out there in the industry and doing some research on that.
Yeah, and like you were saying earlier too, a lot of it you can affect by planting seeds, right? And,
yes.
Yeah, and if you take, instead of constantly reacting, you can kind of help to drive.
And where do you get the most margin from in your business? What's the most profitable thing? Is that 10% of new stuff you bring in? It's inevitable, whether it's something new on the menu, whether it's a new product, an extra service you bring in. It is not the commodity. Yes, everybody wants what you do the best at the cheapest price. And if you get into that, you're not going to be a true entrepreneur. You're just a small business.
Yeah. You can't,
Evolve, reinvent yourself.
Yeah, I love it. All right, so you're a reader. 3 books that have really been impactful for you that you think people need to put down whatever they're reading currently and pick up these books and get through that. That's how impactful they are.
There's so many. I think I'm going to kind of scatter them around. I guess the first one would be StrengthsFinder. It's by Tom Rath. It's just to find, identify your strengths. A very easy, small book. I would look at it as a coffee table type book. One of the ones I like to use in a lot of my talks, and that is is Blue Ocean Strategy.
Okay. Yep.
That's by Chang Kim. It's really how to create your open market space. When you think of, where the sharks, the red ocean, go to the blue ocean. Go where there isn't something fresh and different. Reinvent yourself, kind of that same concept. And then lastly, we talked about the creative mind. We've been talking about the innovative things that are important. It's called Innovative Mindset. It's by John Sweeney. And this is really, I feel, is some great breakthroughs for innovative analysis for entrepreneurs. So those would be the 3 that I would say would be want to pick up. There's a lot of blah blah books.
Yeah.
But I think these are good ones that are easy to follow.
Awesome. Very, very cool. Okay. Mark, this has been phenomenal. I've really, really enjoyed our time together. It's been a blast. I shared with you earlier when I first sat down that there's a massive selfish component to this. And when I mean selfish, I don't necessarily mean it in a bad way, because I love doing this. I love sitting down with folks and be able to learn from them. And then it gives me so much joy that I can take that and broker that conversation and give it to the world, which is so cool. And it amazes me, it astounds me, that you could have said something today that maybe you just mentioned in passing, didn't think twice about, and someone else on the other end is listening to this, and it radically altered the course of their life for the better, forever. And that's amazing to me. And so thanks for making the time to sit down and open up, share some failures with us, and also help us to learn not only what to do, but what not to do. So if folks wanted to connect with you or connect with your work, we'll have your books in the show notes as well too, along with your book recommendations, but your those that you've authored. How can they find you? Is LinkedIn, email, is that good for you? Or
Well, I think the evolutionsgroup.com is probably the best way to find me. I'm on LinkedIn. I think if I were to address you back, that would probably pop up. Obviously, because of some of the boards I'm on in financial, I don't do as much Facebook because of security reasons, but LinkedIn's good. But yes, you can reach me at evolutionsgroup.com. Awesome. I know it's been a pleasure, Kyle, here, but more than anything, inspiring to see you the journey and the path that you've been on as well. So I don't know, maybe somebody should talk to you sometime, unless you've done that already.
I haven't. I would love to. Yeah, it'd be fun. We all have a story, right? And but I still have a lot to learn. Still writing the story, which is exciting. But yeah, I would love to be able to share more. So. Well,
thanks for doing what you do.
Yeah, thank you, Mark.
Wow, so much, such rich wisdom. Hard to distill it all into nice, tidy little sound bites here, but let's do this. Let's recap what Mark told us not to do. First, don't be a spectator. Don't be a spectator. In other words, get in the game. There's this kind of phenomenon or this mindset that feels like it's being successful or getting success because you're watching other people get success. Well, that's not how it works. You got to get in the game. Be the quarterback, throw the touchdown pass, catch the touchdown pass, run the ball into the end zone, sack the quarterback, pick up the fumble and return it, whatever it is. Get in the game. And the best way you can do that is ask yourself 3 questions. What am I good at? What do I enjoy? And what are my economic opportunities? Take what you enjoy and marry it with what you're good at and find a way to be able to serve the world around you. Secondly, when you're doing that, don't trust everyone, right? Don't trust everyone. There can be a million folks who might be out there, they want to help you, and that's great. We've had other episodes where folks have talked about being should on, you should do this, you should do that, and not everyone necessarily has your best interest in mind, so you have to be discerning. It doesn't mean that everyone who wants to come help you is a bad guy by any stretch of the imagination, but be trusting, right? Be discerning, and look at your trust as something that is high value, and don't just give it away, right? Don't cast your pearls before swines, so to speak. That takes a level of discernment and wisdom. So don't just simply blindly trust everyone. Know who it is that you're working with, that you're partnering with, and that you guys are going after the same vision, same goals, and the same path of values to get there. Third, don't try to help everyone. Don't try to help everyone. I guess the maxim, if everything is special, then nothing is special, right? If you try to help everyone, then you're helping no one. It could be a possible, congruency there. So think about it. Who are you trying to help? Who's your ideal customer, client? Who are you trying to serve, etc.? And don't just try to help everyone, because you're going to probably end up helping no one. You'll be spread in a mile wide and an inch deep, rather than really having a niche or target market demographic, etc., that you can go an inch wide and mile deep. And once you get that right, you can definitely expand from there. But don't come out of the gate trying to help everybody. There's 7 billion people in the world. If you offer something that generic, you're probably not going to help anyone. Fourth, don't ask customers what they want. Maybe sometimes we feel like, well, we have to know what people want in order to be able to give it to them. Well, I think what Mark was saying is give them what they need. And because consumers, customers, clients can be oftentimes so fickle, and their minds can change, or their preferences can change, especially, like in Mark's previous industry, in fashion, etc. Think about how often that changes. And so to use that as a metaphor, if you were asking customers what they want, well, that's going to be changing with the fashion, right? What's the fashion of the week? What's the fashion of the month? What's the fashion of the year, etc. So whatever industry you might be in, don't just ask customers what they want. You figure out what they actually need, right? And give them what they need. Be the leader, be the thought leader in that category, so that you're planting that seed in their mind as far as what they would find value, and help to lead that conversation in value. Fifth, don't forget about the transition. Don't forget about the transition, whether it's having to do with technology, or again, fashion, trends, all that kind of stuff. You have to, and what Mark was talking about was keeping pace with the trends, right? Understanding the trends, all that kind of stuff. And don't forget, you're going to have to transition. Your business is going to grow, either logistically, technically, with your people, with your team, what you offer, etc. So don't forget about those transitions and prepare for them, right? Plan for them. Be proactive, not reactive in that, because if you react, it's likely that you could get buried in those transitions, either by your own lack of planning or by the competition, other folks that are offering something similar to you, and that they were able to pivot and do that well. And this goes into number 6, don't build cages. Don't build a cage for yourself that you can't transition from, that you can't pivot off of. And even on a greater level, as Mark was kind of describing on lifestyle and all that kind of stuff, don't build yourself a cage. Sometimes folks, work a really... self-employed folks work a really high-paying job. For instance, I experienced this in the dental industry that I was previously in, and you can hear, you see doctors that, they have a practice and they end up being a slave to their practice, and they stop enjoying what they do and helping people because all they've done is they don't really have a business. They don't really, they aren't necessarily owners. They just are, they own what they own is a high-paying job, right? That's a cage, and you can't get out of that, because as soon as you try to get out of that, it falls apart, right? So build a business, not a cage. And that's really, really, really important. The other aspect with that is don't build a cage for your team. Don't build a cage for your people. You wouldn't do that with your own kids, right? And so be careful on that idea of building cages. And maybe it's a good time to reflect and analyze your business, saying, do I have a cage here? Do I have a macro cage? Am I stuck in a cage myself? How about my team? Have I put my team in a cage? Do I have these little individual cages for each of my teams here that they can never get out of, right? And how can you pivot out of that to make it a platform, not a cage, right? You want to think of it as like a launching pad, right, that they can spring from and grow from. That's huge. Not a cage where there's a ceiling and walls, et cetera, they can never move out from. Because if that's the case, that's going to be true for your business. You're not going to be able to grow and expand, et cetera. Last but not least, don't retire. Don't retire. Rethink retirement. I mean, come on. If you're doing what you enjoy and you're doing what you're good at and you're doing what yields economic opportunity, why would you ever want to stop? Right? It seems like we've kind of bought into this idea of retirement, that, hey, we go to college, high school, school for 18 years, college for 4 years, and we work, for 30, 40 years for somebody else building their dream, so that by the time we're 65, we can finally pay attention to our dream. It seems kind of like a shady deal to me. I think early in life, we can figure out what we enjoy, what we're good at, and what are our economic opportunities, and we can build a business that's providing value to the world, a real need, a real good there. I would rather do that, right? And why wait? Why put off the life of your dreams, what you really, really want, for 65 years of your life? Why not have it now, right? That actually is possible. Doesn't mean that it's easy or an overnight deal, but it is possible. And so rethink retirement, right? Don't wait to have a couple million when you're 65 years old, when you can have that now because you own a business, right? Or whatever it might be. And there are, so many good books, so many good resources out there, and Mark himself would be a great one to help you be thinking down that road. So don't retire. I love how Mark called it a victory lap, right? So you're moving from success to significance. You're still moving, right? You haven't stopped, right? But now you want to take other people with you. You want you're reveling in a life well lived, and in that victory lap, in those final chapters of your life. Later in life, instead of just squandering it on a beach somewhere, reinvest in others. Help others be successful. Help them reach the same levels that you have. Take that victory lap and take others with you. Really, really powerful. Well, this has been an awesome, awesome, awesome conversation. I hope you guys have benefited from it as much as I have. If so, share it with a friend. A great way you can do that, helping to get these stories out to the world, to more people, would be leave a 5-star review on whatever platform you listen to. Would be great. If you guys are eager to hear someone on the show, let me know. My calendar is filling up really, really fast, which is exciting. A lot of traction, a lot of momentum, a lot of folks that want to be on the show, which is cool. But I'm always looking for folks. And if you know someone who's an entrepreneur that has had success and wants to lean into their failures here on the show in order to help equip others for success, it'd be a perfect fit. Connect us and we can go from there and see what that would look like. If you're a business and you think that you would like to be, have a featured spot on the show because your story is so important in helping to equip others for success, especially folks that are either entrepreneurial in spirit or have had entrepreneurial success, let's talk. Let's see what that would look like as a potential partnership. Well, it's been said that good men learn from their own mistakes, but great men, they learn from the mistakes of others. So go and be great, and we'll see you next time.